Robyn Brown just admitted on national television that Kody threatened her, and folks, the entire Sister Wives universe just imploded. Let that sink in for a moment. The woman who fans have spent over a decade accusing of being the puppet master, the favorite, the one pulling all the strings behind the scenes, just revealed that she has been living under the shadow of her husband's threats during private negotiations about Coyote Pass. This confession, delivered during the season 20 tell-all with host Suki, marks the first time in the history of this franchise that Robyn has spoken publicly against the man she has defended through every scandal, every family breakdown, and every devastating divorce. The timing of this revelation could not be more explosive. For years, fans have constructed elaborate theories about Robyn manipulating Kody, about her being the architect of every family fracture, about her engineering the downfall of Christine, Janelle, and Meri to secure her position as the only remaining wife. And now, with one tearful confession, that entire narrative has been thrown into question. Sources close to production say that when Robyn made this admission, the crew was stunned into silence. One insider described the moment as absolutely jaw-dropping because nobody expected her to turn on Kody like this. What makes this confession even more devastating is the context surrounding it. This was not some offhand remark or subtle implication. According to those who watched the tell-all filming unfold, Robyn was visibly shaken as she described backdoor property deals that have been happening away from the cameras for months, possibly years. She allegedly detailed conversations where Kody pressured her, where he made it clear that compliance was not optional, where the man she married in 2014 showed a side of himself that viewers have only glimpsed in heated moments on screen. The irony is absolutely staggering when you think about it. Here is a woman who has spent the better part of a decade being vilified by fans, receiving death threats on social media, being blamed for destroying a family of 20+ years, and now she is positioning herself as someone who was also victimized by Kody's controlling behavior. Whether you believe her or not, and trust me, we are going to unpack every angle of this, the fact that she said these words out loud changes everything about how we understand the Brown family dynamics. But Robyn's threat confession is just the tip of a very disturbing iceberg, and the secret property deals she referenced involve financial maneuvering that could cost the other wives everything they thought was legally protected. The Brown family has never been more shattered than it is right now, and the wreckage is everywhere you look. Christine walked away first, finalizing her departure in 2021 after years of feeling like she was at the bottom of Kody's priority list. Janelle followed, making it clear that her marriage was effectively over and that she was done pretending otherwise. And Meri, the original wife who spent decades trying to repair a relationship that Kody had clearly abandoned, finally admitted that she too had moved on. What remains is Robyn, Kody, and a mountain of unresolved property disputes that have turned Coyote Pass into a battlefield. For those unfamiliar with the Coyote Pass saga, let me break this down. The Brown family purchased this property in Flagstaff, Arizona, with dreams of building their plural family compound, a place where each wife would have her own home, but the family could remain connected. The land was divided into lots, purchased with contributions from each wife, and was supposed to represent their future together. Instead, it has become the symbol of everything that went wrong. Sources say that the property sits largely undeveloped, tax obligations have mounted, and the question of who owns what has become legally complicated in ways that nobody anticipated. The season 20 tell-all took an unusual format that created the perfect conditions for Robyn's explosive confession. Host Suki conducted separate interviews with each family member, meaning that Robyn spoke without Kody sitting beside her, without his watchful eye monitoring every word. According to insiders, this separation was intentional. Production wanted honest answers, and they knew that certain revelations would only happen if the wives felt safe enough to speak freely. One source put it bluntly, saying that putting them in separate rooms was the only way to get the truth, and boy did they get more than they bargained for. What Robyn allegedly revealed during her solo session suggests that the manipulation fans suspected was happening, but they had the villain wrong. For years, viewers assumed Robyn was whispering in Kody's ear, turning him against his other wives, engineering situations that would leave her as the last woman standing. But according to Robyn's own words, what was actually happening behind closed doors was far more disturbing. She claims that Kody was threatening her, pressuring her regarding property negotiations, and making decisions about the family's financial future without her genuine consent. The reaction from Sister Wives fans has been swift and divided, and the debate about whether to believe Robyn is tearing the fanbase apart in real time. Now let us get into the actual threat that Robyn disclosed, because the details she allegedly provided paint a picture of a marriage that is far different from what we have seen on screen. According to sources who were present during the tell-all taping, Robyn described a conversation with Kody about Coyote Pass, where his tone shifted from frustrated escalated to genuinely menacing. She reportedly used the word threatened multiple times, emphasizing that this was not just aggressive negotiating or heated arguments. This was something that made her feel unsafe, that made her question whether speaking up was worth the consequences. The context of this threat centered on property negotiations, specifically discussions about who would get what portion of the Coyote Pass land and under what terms. Remember, this property represents hundreds of thousands of dollars in investment, and with 3 wives now estranged from Kody, the question of how to divide or sell it has become intensely contentious. One insider explained that Kody wanted the wives to sign away their shares under terms that would heavily favor him, and when resistance emerged, his tactics allegedly became more aggressive. Robyn's emotional state during this confession was reportedly unlike anything fans have seen from her before. This is a woman known for her tearful camera confessionals, for crying at the drop of a hat during family discussions, and even she seemed genuinely shaken by what she was describing. Those who watched the filming say her hands were trembling, her voice kept breaking, and at several points she asked for a moment to compose herself. Whether you interpret this as authentic trauma or calculated performance, the visual impact was undeniable. Let us be brutally honest here about what a contrast this represents. For 14 seasons, Robyn has defended Kody through controversies that would have sent most women running for divorce attorneys. She defended his favoritism, made excuses for his treatment of the other wives, and consistently positioned herself as his biggest supporter. For her to now publicly claim that he threatened her during private negotiations is either an earth-shattering revelation about abuse behind closed doors, or it is the most dramatic pivot in reality television history. Either way, it demands our attention. What makes this even more significant is Robyn's claim that the threat was not isolated from the financial moves happening around it. She allegedly indicated that Kody's pressure connected directly to documents he wanted her to sign, agreements that would have solidified certain property arrangements before the other wives could object. According to legal experts who have analyzed publicly available property records, some of the Coyote Pass land has already seen ownership changes that raise questions about whether all parties truly consented. But the threat Robyn described was apparently just one piece of a much larger puzzle, and the backdoor deals she referenced suggest years of financial manipulation that cameras never captured. The secret property negotiations happening outside of filmed family meetings tell a story of desperation and manipulation that makes Robyn's threat confession even more alarming. According to multiple sources close to the Brown family, Kody has been conducting private conversations with each wife about Coyote Pass, conversations that were deliberately kept away from cameras and away from other family members. The alleged goal was simple but devastating. He wanted to consolidate control over the property, and he was willing to use different tactics with different wives to achieve it. Here is what makes this legally fascinating. Real estate attorneys have explained that when property is jointly owned, as portions of Coyote Pass allegedly are, no single owner can force a sale without the consent of the others, or without going through an expensive and time-consuming legal process called a partition action. One expert put it bluntly, saying that Kody cannot just decide to sell and expect everyone to go along with it, which is why the pressure and alleged threats make a twisted kind of sense. If you cannot force a sale legally, you try to pressure people into signing voluntarily. The tactics Kody allegedly used varied depending on which wife he was approaching. Sources claim that with some wives, he emphasized the financial burden of maintaining property that was not being developed, playing on concerns about property taxes and maintenance costs. With others, he allegedly took a more aggressive approach, suggesting that holding out would damage relationships with the adult children or create legal problems down the road. And with Robyn, according to her own words, he apparently crossed a line into what she perceived as outright threats. Allow me to translate what this means in practical terms. If these accounts are accurate, Kody was essentially trying to get signatures on property documents through manipulation rather than genuine negotiation. He allegedly approached each wife separately, probably knowing that their communication with each other had broken down, hoping to secure agreements before anyone could compare notes. It is a classic divide and conquer strategy, and according to those familiar with the situation, it almost worked with at least one wife before she realized what was happening and refused to sign anything. The question of what the wives were actually being offered versus what they were threatened with reveals a disturbing pattern. Reports suggest that some wives were presented with buyout offers that significantly undervalued their shares of the property, while being told that rejecting the offer would result in prolonged legal battles that would cost them more than they would gain. One source described the approach as coercive at best and possibly something worse, adding that no ethical attorney would advise a client to accept the terms Kody was allegedly proposing. But there was one wife who refused to bend to any of Kody's property demands, and her resistance may have been the trigger that sent the entire family into chaos. Janelle Brown has emerged as the wife who simply would not comply with Kody's property schemes, and her refusal may have changed everything. Unlike the other wives, Janelle has always been the most financially savvy member of the Brown family. She built a career in real estate, she understands property law, and according to sources close to the family, she immediately recognized what Kody was attempting with his backdoor negotiations. One insider said that Janelle saw through every manipulation attempt and made it clear she would not sign anything without independent legal counsel reviewing it first. Her legal knowledge became a crucial shield, not just for herself, but potentially for the other wives as well. Reports suggest that Janelle quietly consulted with attorneys about the Coyote Pass ownership structure and discovered that her rights were far more protected than Kody had led her to believe. Armed with this information, she allegedly began pushing back on every document Kody presented, asking questions he did not want to answer, requesting transparency he was unwilling to provide. One source described her as the immovable object meeting Kody's supposedly unstoppable force. What makes Janelle's stand particularly significant is the timeline. Her most aggressive pushback against Kody's property demands allegedly coincided with the period when Robyn says the threats began. Speculation among those close to the situation is that Kody's frustration with Janelle's resistance may have spilled over into his interactions with Robyn. If he could not pressure Janelle into compliance, perhaps he thought he could at least secure Robyn's cooperation, even if it meant using tactics that crossed ethical and possibly legal lines. The possibility that Janelle was coaching other wives on their rights adds another layer to this family drama. According to rumors that have circulated among Sister Wives insiders, Janelle reached out to both Christine and Meri to share what she had learned about their property protections. Whether this communication happened before or after their respective departures from Kody is unclear, but the result was allegedly the same. The wives who might have been vulnerable to Kody's pressure tactics suddenly had information that made them much harder to manipulate. Let that sink in for a moment. Janelle, who spent years being dismissed as the wife Kody was least attracted to, who was repeatedly shown as the practical one without much romantic connection to her husband, may have been the person who protected the entire family from financial manipulation. The irony would be delicious if the stakes were not so high. She could not save her marriage, but she may have saved her sister wives from losing everything in backdoor property deals. Janelle's defiance reportedly created an unexpected alliance that nobody saw coming, and the details of who joined forces against Kody will surprise even longtime viewers. Host Suki's observations during the tell-all filming provide crucial insight into what really happened behind the scenes, and her revelations add credibility to Robyn's shocking claims. According to production sources, Suki spent extensive time with each Brown family member during the separate interview sessions, and what she witnessed painted a picture of a family in far deeper crisis than even the most dramatic episodes suggested. One insider quoted Suki as saying that the tension was palpable from the moment filming began, and it only intensified as each person shared their perspective. The atmosphere when each wife arrived to tape their segment was apparently loaded with anxiety and barely concealed hostility. Sources say that extraordinary measures were taken to ensure certain family members never crossed paths during the filming schedule. Robyn and Janelle were allegedly filmed on completely different days. Christine and Kody were reportedly never in the building at the same time. The level of coordination required to keep everyone separated speaks volumes about just how fractured these relationships have become. What production sources found most revealing was who refused to be in the same room as whom, and some of the combinations were surprising. Obviously, the estranged wives wanted nothing to do with Kody, but reportedly there were also tensions between some of the wives themselves. Years of resentment, competition, and feeling like they were pitted against each other by their shared husband have left wounds that may never fully heal. One crew member described it as walking through a minefield, saying that every scheduling decision had to account for who hated whom that particular week. Suki's observations about Robyn's demeanor versus her typical on-camera persona were particularly telling. Insiders say that Robyn arrived for her interview looking exhausted in a way that makeup could not fully conceal. Her usual carefully composed presentation was noticeably absent. When cameras rolled, she was more candid than she has ever been in 14 seasons of the show, and Suki allegedly had to pause filming multiple times because Robyn became too emotional to continue. Whether this represents genuine vulnerability or a calculated new strategy is something fans will debate endlessly. The contrast between what Suki witnessed and what typically makes it to air suggests that the Brown family collapse was even more devastating than edited episodes could convey. Television naturally sanitizes reality, selecting moments that tell a coherent story while leaving the messiest details on the cutting room floor. But according to those present at the tell-all, the raw footage contains revelations that would fundamentally change how viewers understand this family if it ever saw the light of day. But what Suki observed was just the surface of the dysfunction, and the truth about Robyn's role in the family, whether she was truly the favorite or something far more complicated, is finally becoming clear. For over a decade, fans have constructed elaborate theories about Robyn being the puppet master controlling Kody and engineering the destruction of his other marriages. The evidence seemed overwhelming. She got the legal marriage, she got the nicest house, she got more time, more attention, more resources, but Robyn's confession about being threatened forces us to reconsider whether what looked like favoritism was actually something far more disturbing. What if Robyn's position as the favorite came with a price that she has been paying in private this entire time? The possibility that Robyn was actually a victim of Kody's manipulation rather than his co-conspirator in manipulation requires us to re-examine years of footage through a different lens. Consider the moments when Robyn defended Kody's indefensible behavior, when she made excuses that seemed almost pathological in their loyalty. What if those defenses came not from genuine agreement but from fear of the consequences, if she did not support him publicly? One psychologist who has analyzed the Browns for a popular podcast suggested that Robyn's behavior patterns could be consistent with someone in a coercive, controlling relationship. Here's where it gets complicated. Compliance born from fear looks almost identical to compliance born from favoritism. When you are only seeing what happens on camera, Robyn always backing Kody, Robyn always taking his side, Robyn always receiving the best treatment. From the outside, it seemed like she was winning. But if her confession is truthful, she may have been surviving rather than thriving, saying what she needed to say to avoid consequences that viewers never witnessed. The fan reaction shift has been remarkable to observe in real time. Social media accounts that spent years attacking Robyn are suddenly expressing sympathy, albeit cautiously. Comment sections that were reliable Robyn hate zones now feature genuine debates about whether she deserves reassessment. One prominent Sister Wives fan account posted that they might have had the villain wrong this whole time, and the engagement on that post broke their usual numbers. Whether this sympathy wave continues will depend largely on what else emerges from the tell-all. But here is where I need to pump the brakes on the Robyn rehabilitation tour, because her confession contained one detail that suggests she was not entirely innocent in the family's dysfunction. According to sources, Robyn admitted during her interview that she was aware of some of Kody's backdoor property dealings before they came to light, and while she claims she did not actively participate, she also did not warn the other wives about what was happening. Knowing about manipulation and staying silent is its own form of complicity, even if you are afraid of the manipulator. The question of Robyn's true nature, victim or villain, becomes even murkier when you examine the financial warfare that Kody waged against his entire family. The money behind Coyote Pass explains why Kody became so desperate that he allegedly resorted to threats against his own wife, and the financial pressure mounting on the Brown family is staggering. Property records and financial documents that have become public through various legal proceedings paint a picture of a family drowning in obligations they cannot meet. The Coyote Pass land itself carries significant property tax burdens that must be paid regardless of whether anyone develops it, and with the family income from Sister Wives presumably decreasing as the show's ratings decline, those obligations become harder to meet every year. Sources familiar with the family's finances describe a situation that has gone from uncomfortable to critical. Without consistent income and with multiple households to maintain, the Browns have allegedly been hemorrhaging money for years. The million-dollar home that Robyn and Kody purchased has been cited as a particular source of financial strain, with mortgage payments that require steady income to sustain. One insider suggested that Kody's desperation to liquidate the Coyote Pass property stems from a need to free up cash before creditors start circling more aggressively. Kody's attempts to gain solo control over the property and its potential sale proceeds were legally blocked in ways that apparently enraged him. When jointly owned property exists, all owners typically must agree to major decisions about it. Kody allegedly wanted the authority to list the property for sale, negotiate with buyers, and control how the proceeds would be distributed. Legal experts who have reviewed the publicly available ownership structure confirm that he cannot do any of this unilaterally, which is precisely why he allegedly turned to pressure tactics and threats to secure signatures. The rumors about what Kody planned to do with his share of any sale proceeds are particularly damning. According to sources who claim knowledge of his intentions, Kody was not planning to divide any windfall equally among the family. Instead, he allegedly wanted to use the money to stabilize his own financial situation first, with the other wives receiving whatever remained after his obligations were met. Let us be brutally honest here. If these rumors are accurate, Kody was planning planning to use shared family assets to bail himself out while leaving his former wives to fend for themselves. The financial desperation created an environment where Kody's behavior allegedly escalated beyond anything the family had experienced before. Sources describe a man who felt backed into a corner, who saw his entire financial future depending on deals that other people were refusing to make. That pressure apparently led to the final confrontation that broke Robyn and prompted her to speak out publicly against her husband for the first time in their relationship. But the financial warfare was just one front in a family conflict that has now splintered every relationship, and the current status of who is speaking to whom reveals just how deep the damage goes. The current state of every family relationship post Robyn's revelations resembles a disaster zone where even the survivors are wounded. Christine, who left first and has been the most publicly vocal about her departure, reportedly reacted to Robyn's tell-all confession with a mixture of validation and skepticism. Sources say Christine told friends that she always knew there was more going on behind closed doors, but questioned whether Robyn's timing was genuinely about truth-telling or about positioning herself as a victim before Kody could make her the villain. Janelle's response to Robyn finally speaking out has been more measured but equally complicated. The two women were never particularly close during the marriage, often being portrayed as the wives with the least in common. But according to those familiar with their current dynamic, Janelle reached out to Robyn after learning what she disclosed during filming, not to offer friendship exactly, but to acknowledge that maybe they had more shared experiences than either realized. Whether this tentative connection develops into something meaningful remains to be seen. Meri's reaction has been the most surprising of all. The original wife, who spent years being treated as an afterthought by both Kody and the other wives, reportedly felt vindicated by Robyn's confession, but also deeply sad. Sources say Meri recognized patterns in what Robyn described, moments from her own marriage where Kody's pressure tactics crossed lines that she could not fully articulate at the time. One friend of Meri's said she cried when she heard what Robyn revealed, not out of sympathy for Robyn specifically, but because it confirmed what she always suspected about who Kody really was. The adult children present perhaps the most heartbreaking element of this family fallout. These are young people who grew up on camera, who had their family's dysfunction broadcast to millions, and who now must process their father allegedly threatening their mother or stepmother during property disputes. Reports suggest that several of Kody's children have further distanced themselves from him following the tell-all revelations, with some reportedly refusing to take his calls. The father, who once led a family of 23, is becoming increasingly isolated from his own offspring. Speculation about potential reconciliation has been thoroughly crushed by recent developments. Whatever slim possibility existed that the family might find some functional way forward has been eliminated by Robyn's public accusations and Kody's alleged response to them. Sources say that when Kody learned what Robyn disclosed during her separate interview, his reaction was explosive. One family member's response to the tell-all has fans predicting that a major announcement about the future of their marriage is imminent. The question of where the Brown family goes from here has only one certain answer, and it is that nothing about Sister Wives will ever be the same again. Robyn Brown's confession during the season 20 tell-all has fundamentally rewritten how we must understand 14 seasons of Sister Wives, and the implications extend far beyond one family's drama. For over a decade, millions of viewers watched what they believed was a story about polygamy, about jealousy between sister wives, about one woman manipulating her way to the top of a complicated family hierarchy. Now we must consider the possibility that the real story was about a controlling man using different tactics with different women to maintain power over all of them. The question of whether Robyn will stay with Kody now that she has spoken publicly against him hangs over everything. History suggests that women who break their silence about controlling partners often face a choice between escalating conflict and escape. Robyn has children with Kody, financial entanglements that would take years to unwind, and a public image that has been shaped by their partnership. Walking away would be complicated in ways that the other wives who had more independent lives and resources did not face. But staying after these revelations would require Kody to change in ways that nothing in his behavior suggests he is capable of. Was Robyn a villain, a victim, or something more complicated? The honest answer is probably all three at different moments. She may have benefited from Kody's favoritism while also suffering from his control. She may have stayed silent about manipulation she witnessed while also being manipulated herself. Human beings contain multitudes, and reality television has a way of flattening complex people into simple characters. What we are witnessing now is the collapse of those simple narratives under the weight of a truth that does not fit neatly into any category. The upcoming season 20 episodes promise to reveal even more family secrets that could further transform our understanding of the Brown family. Production sources hint that what has been released so far represents only a fraction of what was captured during filming, and that editing decisions about what to include and what to hold back have been intensely debated. The story of Sister Wives is far from over, and every new revelation seems to make the previous ones even more significant. What remains certain is that a family that once represented an alternative vision of marriage and partnership has become a cautionary tale about what happens when control masquerades as love, when financial pressure reveals true character, and when the cameras finally capture what was always happening just out of frame. The Brown family wanted to show America that plural marriage could work. Instead, they showed us how spectacularly it can fail, and Robyn's threat revelation may be the most honest moment any of them has ever given us.